May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? If I might have your attention for just a second, please, if you would. Be sure all your electronic devices are turned off or in the silent mode. Thank you. Hey, John? Yes. All rise. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Indiana Supreme Court is now in session. Please be seated.
On behalf of my colleagues on the Supreme Court, Chief Judge Robb and the members of the Court of Appeals, Tax Court Judge Wentworth, and our trial court colleagues, thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the remarkable career of Randall T. Shepard, Indiana Chief Justice. Before we go further, I want all of you to applaud the upbeat musical group we enjoyed before the ceremony. Yeah. It's not often one can say straight from Carnegie Hall, but that's the truth. Director Spencer Lloyd and the manual heirs of the Indianapolis Public Schools did a remarkable job. We thank you all. Please stand.
Some of them here.
We're grateful that so many people are here who add to the richness of our state life. I'll introduce Governor Daniels in a moment, but first I'd like to welcome several others. Former Governor Ed Whitcomb.
Don't see Ed.
Is Ed here?
No, don't see Ed. No, apparently not.
Well, he intended. Former Governor Joe Kernan and his wife Maggie.
Yay.
Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman. Attorney General Greg Zeller. Secretary of State Connie Lawson.
Yeah.
Auditor Tim Berry.
The Auditor of State.
Okay. From the legislative branch, we have several representatives: Vanita Becker, Richard Bray, Jim Merritt, and Karen Talia. And from the House of Representatives, Speaker Brian Bosma and Ralph Foley.
Yep.
Our friends from the federal court join us today, including Judges John Daniel Tinder, John DiGiulio, Robert Miller, Phil Simon, Sarah Evans Barker, William Lawrence, Jane Magna Stinson, Tanya Walton Pratt, Richard Young, and U.S. Attorney Joe Hogsett.
Yeah.
And we have a number of city leaders, including Mayor Greg Ballard and his wife Winnie of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Mayor Jim Brainerd of Carmel. Mayor Lloyd Winnicky and Carol McClintock of Evansville. And former Mayor Graham Richard of Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
I think all four of Indiana's law deans are here as well. Lauren Robel of the Indiana University Maurer School of Law in Bloomington.
Yeah, they're good.
Gary Roberts of the Indiana University McKinney School of Law. Jay Conason of Valparaiso University School of Law. And Nell Newton of Notre Dame. Likewise, from the world of education, we have Professor Don Elliott from Yale.
Yeah, where is it?
And Bucky Askew, the ABA consultant on legal education. Did Bucky make it?
There he is. No, guess not. Don't see it.
All right, almost. Finally, our most special welcome to Chief Justice Shepard's wife, Amy McDonald, and their daughter, Maddie Shepard. Well, I'm glad to say that we have some messages from people who could not be here this afternoon but wished to be remembered to you. First, Senator Lugar has written a letter which includes this: the experience and intellect with which you presided over the Indiana judicial system led others in our communities and at the federal level to seek your leadership and talents. As a fellow Eagle Scout, I know you will continue to serve our state in significant ways. Sincerely, Dick. And Congressman Stutzman has sent this note: I have always admired your work, integrity, and love for Indiana. I know you will continue to affect the lives you touch. God bless, Marlon Stutzman.
Yeah.
Congressman Todd placed a statement about you in Friday's Congressional Record, and it includes this: all Hoosiers must now, reluctantly, give CJ back to his wife, Amy McDonald, and their daughter, Maddie. We do so knowing that the state of the judiciary in Indiana has been led by the best of the best these last 25 years. Finally, two remarkable messages, almost bookends, as you will see. Listen to these. First, please accept my sincere congratulations on your long and distinguished judicial tenure. I wish you good health and happiness. Sincerely, Clarence Thomas. And your tenure has been simply remarkable. You have been an inspiration for so many judges across the country, and of course, the greatest of public servants for Hoosiers. Warmly, Elena Kagan. Now, as the best possible beginning, we'll hear from the 49th Governor of the state of Indiana, Mitch Daniels. Governor Daniels is a fellow attorney who's known the Chief Justice for a few years, since they were in college. Governor Daniels.
Thank you, Justice Dickson, and good friends of good government, good friends of Randy Shepard. My favorite definition of eternity is two people and a ham. But it seems an eternity that Randy Shepard has been serving all of us and serving Hoosiers in our highest judicial office. And don't know about you, but it is simply beyond my imagination at this moment to think about the judiciary without him. You know, the Colts without Peyton was hard enough. The Indiana judiciary without Shepard, I can't comprehend. All morning, I've been thinking about the concept of luck and how incredibly fortunate our state has been. I know every one of you is thinking the same thing, and surely many of you for the same reasons, but you know, I knew Randy from college days on, and we didn't have one of those most likely to succeed votes, but if we had, he'd have won hands down. And he'd have won most certain to succeed. We wouldn't have known in exactly what pursuit. But I can't help but think how lucky we all are that he once lost an election. Mayor Winnicky, who won an election for that same office, may later decide that wasn't very lucky for him, but life would have taken a different turn, and knowing Randy as I did, I was startled that he didn't win, and my gosh, the great things he would have done in some different career path if the voters had chosen differently then. I bet you everyone in this room believes Indiana got the better end of that bargain. Secondly, how lucky we are that he wasn't taken from us all these years. This is a matter of luck too. When does a certain judicial office become open, and who's making the call when it does? And he would, in his self-effacing way, he would argue with this. I'm just going to assert one person's opinion. There are people on the highest courts of this land who are not his equal. I honestly believe this. And lastly, perhaps most important, the legacy that he will leave in a realm which has rarely been so important, in which figures like Randy Shepard have probably never been so rare. And I'm thinking of the confidence of our fellow citizens in the government that serves them. Government is in ill repute in many places, often unfairly, and often with an agenda by those who would impugn its motives or its performance, or the quality and caliber of the people who fill its high offices. But that's not a good thing in the government by consent of the governed. We can have our disagreements about how much or how little government should do and how much or how little it should spend. But in the long term, it is vital for the health of our republic that people believe in the quality and the good intentions of those who are serving them, have confidence that our institutions are still up to the challenges that we face, are still fair and balanced and well-meaning in as they carry out their functions. And we've had so much to take for granted these last 2.5 decades in the Indiana judiciary under Chief Justice Shepard and his spectacular teammates. But I hope it hasn't escaped your attention that this is not the rule everywhere in America, and that there are places where those in high office have not earned or validated the confidence of their fellow citizens. There are places where the judiciary may have contributed to the erosion or the undermining of the public confidence on which all else depends. And Mr. Chief Justice, of all the spectacular services that you have provided, all the sound decisions, all the calm and calmness and comity with which you and your colleagues seem to work so effortlessly, we know it cannot be as easy as you make it. With our profound thanks for all of that, I think I would single out, above all, the way in which you have unfailingly, every day of 27 years, conducted yourself in a way that fortifies the confidence of all the rest of us, that justice is even-handed, it is fair, it is thoughtful, it is temperamentally appropriate to the solemnity of the duties that you've performed. And I just have to believe that this will linger on. Your colleagues who have worked with you, but those who will come after, who have observed and will study your career and life, surely will lift their game. Very few, if any of them, will ever be able to leave a record like yours, but they will all be better, I'm certain, for the example that you have set. And on the subject of luck, I will simply close, if you'll indulge it, by saying, lucky me. I've known our Chief Justice since the only robes he was wearing were togas or something like that. But I just consider it, I've shared with all of you, with 6.5 million Hoosiers and all those who went before, in all the benefits of his service, everything I just talked about. But I've been lucky enough to have him as a personal friend, and I don't have a better one, or one I would say that I value more highly. Eleanor Roosevelt said that people come in and out of our lives, but only a few leave footprints on our heart. So Randy's left very deep footprints on mine, and I'll bet on all of yours. Thank you for a great career.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much. It's no surprise that Chief Justice Shepard, who himself was a trial court judge, has been a strong supporter of Indiana's 500 judicial officers. He's often said that most citizens get justice in their county courthouse, not from us in the State House. One of the people making sure this happens is the Honorable Robyn Moberly of the Marion Superior Court here in Indianapolis. And today she's speaking on behalf of all our state's judicial officers because she's president of the Indiana Judges Association. Judge Moberly, please come forward.
Thank you, Justice Dickson, Governor, Chief Justice, Ms. McDonald, Justices of the Indiana Supreme Court, Judges of the Court of Appeals of Indiana, and distinguished guests. Chief Justice Shepard's 25 years of leadership of our state's legal system has been truly transformative. The Chief has made unquantifiable contributions to Indiana's jurisprudence, to the legal profession, to the education of our future lawyers and leaders nationally, to historic preservation, to government reform, and so much more about which we will all hear today, I'm sure. You simply cannot overstate his influence nor his modest manner. He is always the first to point out the contributions and accomplishments of others. As president of the Indiana Judges Association, I have the daunting task of remarking upon the difference he has made in the lives of Indiana's judges. The Chief has overseen the modernization of the court system in Indiana, from the creation of problem-solving courts, the birth of a computerized case management system, plain English civil jury instructions, increased educational opportunities for judges, and professional development for our staffs, just to name a very few. The Chief oversaw the implementation of a system to measure the distribution of cases among the counties, so the legislature would have a tool to determine where the work, not merely the judges, justified more judges. I'm sorry, not merely the politics, justified more judges. I saw Representative Foley here, and he caught my eye, and I lost my place for a moment. Another fine man whom we will miss tremendously. His concern went beyond the workplace to the individuals who wear the robes. Understanding the stresses upon the bench and the bar, the Judges and Lawyers Assistance Program was created not to condemn, but to cure the curse of substance abuse and mental health problems among our brethren. Professional speakers, quarterly articles emphasize the importance of a healthy work-life balance to a judiciary presiding over daily trauma in our courts. He knows each one of us individually, and you heard there are 500 of us. And at my first district meeting some 15 years ago, I was surprised when he called upon each one of the 30 or 40 judges in attendance by name without aid. At that time, I think I'd been on the bench 90 days, and he knew me. He has always made himself easily available for a chat if you needed a little career advice, which I have certainly availed myself of many times, and some moral support. During the 1990s and at the beginning of this new century, morale among the judiciary was at its lowest. We had not had an adjustment in pay for about a decade. Some fine judges left the bench to return to the practice of law to afford college for their children. We and our families questioned whether our compensation was a true reflection of the worth our state placed upon our work. The Chief used his considerable political skills, and no one should underestimate those, and not to mention some subtle arm twisting to pull victory from the jaws of defeat. And today the judges and our families are very appreciative that we're treated the same as other state employees are. Chief Justice Shepard has made us proud of what we do and what we stand for. As he departs our ranks, he leaves behind a judiciary with high morale, well prepared for our work, with good friends in the other branches of government, and eager for the challenges of the future. A former president of Harvard University, James Conant, said, "Each honest calling, each walk of life has its own elite, its own aristocracy, based on excellence of performance." There can be no dispute but that Chief Justice Shepard is our profession's aristocracy based upon excellence of performance. Many of you in attendance today may not be aware that the chief is an Anglophile. One of his many interests is the English monarchy. Is this true, Amy? Right? Yes, okay, good. Which I think is particularly appropriate today, given that he has been the head of our judiciary for all these many years. As a remembrance of his service to us and of the trial and appellate judges' respect, admiration, and genuine fondness for him, the Indiana Judges Association would like to present him a Queen Victoria 1897 Jubilee decorated Dalton Burslem throne beaker.
Oh my. Governor Daniel says he has a knife just in case of. Don't drop it, then we'll really. There she is.
Thank you, Judge Moberly. We've long been grateful for the many ongoing partnerships with the Indiana State Bar Association and its foundation. Chief Justice Shepard has encouraged that collaboration, which has resulted in improvements of our rules, numerous educational opportunities, and strong pro bono service. With us today is Fort Wayne attorney Erik Chickedantz, longtime Indiana lawyer and current president of the Indiana State Bar Association. Erik?
May it please the court, Governor Daniels, Chief Justice Shepard, Acting Chief Justice Dickson, members of the court and judiciary, legislators, elected officials, members of the Indiana Bar, and friends of Chief Justice Shepard. If we have anybody here that did not fall into one of those categories, you need to double check. You may be at the wrong event. It is against my better judgment that I'm going to stray a bit from my prepared remarks, but I wanted to say how happy I am to be here today for a number of reasons. First, as the State Bar President, I'm here to make some nice comments about the Chief Justice, and I can assure you that is an easy task because there are a lot of nice things and great things that can be said about the Chief Justice. Secondly, I had the good fortune just a moment ago to briefly meet for the first time a young man who I think most of us around the state will recognize as being one of our all-time top-notch A-plus governors, Mitch Daniels. And thirdly, for the past 71-plus years, I've always been the shortest guy in the room. That's 71 years. That's a long time. That's getting close to 100. But today I'm not. You know where this is going. Today my skein of 71 years of being the shortest guy in the room is ended, and for that I am grateful and glad that Governor Daniels came today. Sorry. I've talked to people and they said, number one, he's a great governor, number two, he's a great guy, and number three, he's got a great sense of humor. So anyway, let me get a little more serious. A strong relationship between any state's Supreme Court and the practicing bar is crucial to the efficient administration of justice. Further, true access to justice doesn't exist unless all three branches of government work together to ensure the court system is fully operational. The thoughts of this year's American Bar Association president Bill Robinson, who is seated to my right, and you'll hear from President Robinson momentarily, capture that idea and are expressed in the theme of Law Day 2012, no courts, no justice, no freedom. No courts, no justice, no freedom. Indiana is blessed to have three co-equal branches of government that understand this concept. Our three branches get it. Not all states do. Leadership is the key. For the past 27 years, Indiana's judicial branch has been led by a judge who ranks among the finest jurists ever to suit up, ever to don the judicial robe at any level. Chief Justice Randall T. Shepard, the Chief Justice, gets it. During the past 3 years, I've traveled to many national and regional meetings involving other state bar associations, and I can tell you that without exception, other state leaders recognize how fortunate the Indiana Bar and Hoosiers in general are to have our effective and efficient system of courts under the leadership of Randy Shepard. He is held in the highest regard by his peers, other bar leaders, and lawyers throughout the country. On the home front, the chief has been always willing to listen to comments and concerns of the practicing lawyer. He regularly reports on the state of the judiciary. He reports of the State Bar's annual House of Delegates meeting, and in fact, he stays for the entire meeting, listening to the debate and discussion on issues facing the practice of law in Indiana, issues which ultimately impact the well-being of all Hoosiers. Chief Justice has been a tireless leader on both the state and national level. He has served us well. On behalf of the 12,500 members of the Indiana State Bar Association, it gives me great pleasure to number one, salute him for a job well done and wish him well in his retirement, and number two, present the chief with a small token of appreciation and thanks. Back in the early 1990s, the ISBA, through Tom Piers, our executive director, commissioned a local artist to do a drawing of the bench here in the Supreme Court, and we did it then because we really didn't know how long the Chief Justice was going to hang in there. But as 20-plus years has passed since it was commissioned, I can tell you that we had to dust this thing off a bit for today's ceremony. Regardless, the prints are signed and numbered. Even though the court has undergone several changes over these years, we saved print number one for our Chief Justice, Randy Shepard. Chief, from all Indiana lawyers, thank you for a magnificent run. You have brought great credit to our state and our profession. Thank you.
While Chief Justice Shepard physically moved from Evansville almost 27 years ago, his connection to the place of his childhood has remained strong. In fact, anybody from Evansville will probably proudly tell you that Randy is theirs to claim. Joining us today is Todd Glass, a partner in the Evansville firm of Fine and Hatfield, who serves as president of the Evansville Bar Association. Todd?
Chief Justice, Your Honors, and honorable guests. You know, of the many personal and professional rewards that I have received as being president of the Evansville Bar Association, a 550-member local bar, none have been more worthwhile and pleasurable than to receive the invitation to be here today and to bring you greetings from southwestern Indiana. I am happy to report that we actually, on our trip up today, traveled I-69.
Yeah.
1.2 miles. It's a start. But we did think that we could add another benefit of this great political and engineering achievement, and that is soon as you begin this new chapter in your life, we're hoping and trusting that it will herald you to visit your childhood home and back to your Evansville brethren. Chief Justice, most of us know about your beginnings in Vanderburgh County courts. We'll skip over your local political career, as the governor mentioned, but I do want to bring you back a little bit earlier. If you would recall the time as you walked as a young man in the halls of Harrison High School. You see, everyone, as our Honorable Attorney General once observed, our Chief Justice never really left his hometown. He's remained engaged and committed to the Evansville community. And most indicative of this man's character, I believe, was his role in the founding of the Randall T. Shepard Academy for Law and Social Justice. This 2-year program of the Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation, housed at Harrison High School, engages students in critical analysis and social value thinking, prepares them for pursuits in law, social justice, and political science. It encourages community involvement and partners with the Evansville Bar Association in an active mentor program. Now, would any of us doubt for a moment that our Chief Justice would involve himself in the futures of our children and the futures that they represent? He certainly does. Sitting in the Senate chambers today, I believe, are teachers Stacy Heron and Chad Fetcher. And also in the Senate chambers, Your Honor, making the trip today to be with you, are students Rachel Guthrie and Ashley Brandenberger. They wanted to be here today, Your Honor, to thank you for your commitment to the Academy and to all their futures. In April of last year, I'd like to mention that the Evansville Bar celebrated the centennial of its association as a bar association, and we did so in grand fashion. The members of the local bar raised $300,000 to completely renovate the Superior Courtroom in the old Vanderburgh County Courthouse. The splendor of the renovated courtroom, renamed the Randall T. Shepard Courtroom, surpassed everyone's expectations. Now one is unable to step across its threshold without instinctively looking upward, as if to the heavens, in involuntary reverence to the honor of law and of justice rendered that room commands. Your career on the bench, Your Honor, and your passion for justice eloquently advocated over the years commands the same level of respect, as do those columns of marble and oak. It is aptly named. During our centennial of the Evansville Bar, we commissioned an impressionist artist and retired attorney, Cedric Eustis, to honor the Chief Justice with a rendering of the renovated courtroom. An acrylic on canvas is a result of the efforts of Mr. Eustis, who has been referred to as the State Bar's Artist Laureate. Chief Justice Shepard, on behalf of the Evansville Bar Association and your Evansville brothers and sisters that sit on the bench and argue before it, we are finally happy to present this painting to you in honor of both your career and this occasion. I pray, Your Honor, at the times that you glance upon it, your spirit will be quietly reminded of our fondness, our friendship, and our fraternity. In his address to the Young Men's Lyceum Society in 1838, a young Abraham Lincoln spoke about the honor of law. He said, "Let reverence for the laws be breathed by every American mother. Let it be taught in schools, in seminaries, and in colleges. Let it be written in primers, spelling books, and in almanacs. Let it be preached from the pulpit, proclaimed in legislative halls, and enforced in courts of justice. There is but one gentleman among us that represents the reverence of the law and has perhaps done more to teach us the inviolate nature and goodness of our Constitution and our system of justice than perhaps all of us here today. And it is you, good sir, that I send gratitude from the southern hills of Indiana where Lincoln once roamed, telling you job well done, and we're anxious to see you back home.
Thank you, Todd, so much. Now joining us today is the current president of the American Bar Association, Bill Robinson. I'll call on him in just a moment, but first I'd like to introduce to you the special people he's sitting with. We have, I think if she's arrived now, Mary McQueen, president of the National Center for State Courts. All right. Mary's here from Williamsburg, Virginia. Also sitting there is Mrs. Mary Moyer, widow of the late Ohio Supreme Court Chief Justice Tom Moyer. Thank you for making the trip to Indiana. Now, Bill Robinson, it's fitting that as a leader of the national legal community, you would join us today to honor one of the finest attorneys and judges in the United States, our own Chief Justice Shepard. Please come forward.
May it please the court, Governor Daniels, distinguished members of the legislature, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my honor and distinct privilege to be here on behalf of the American Bar Association to express our respect and appreciation to Chief Justice Randall T. Shepard for his distinguished and dedicated service as the nation's longest-serving state Supreme Court Justice. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. For more than a quarter of a century, Randy Shepard, as Chief Justice of Indiana, has made excellence his habit. There are many of us who aspire to the highest standards of the legal profession, but Chief Justice Shepard is a model of those standards, exuding the utmost integrity, fairness, and professionalism. His work ethic is legendary, and there are few judges who can emulate his contributions to the law. He has earned the respect of his colleagues all across this country. Chief Justice Shepard has devoted his career to developing practical solutions to improve the way Indiana's courts operate. He has worked hard to make the courts here more transparent by using technology. His commitment to legal education and greater opportunity for everyone has made the practice of law in this state of Indiana more representative of the society it serves by making the bar more diverse. And he has been a tireless advocate of pro bono to ensure that the courts are fair, so much so that the Randall T. Shepard Award is given annually to a distinguished member of the legal community who has generously dedicated his or her time, skill, and services to the poor of Indiana. As fellow officers of the court, we in the American Bar Association are very thankful for Chief Justice Shepard's superb service and exceptional leadership as chair of the American Bar Association's Appellate Judges Conference and as chair of the ABA section of Legal Education and Admission to the Bar. The Chief's lasting legacy is sweeping and profound. Not only did Chief Justice Shepard carry out these endeavors with the utmost integrity and excellence of character, but he did so with a great deal of heart. The law is his passion. The legal profession is his calling. Chief Justice Shepard has authored nearly 900 civil and criminal opinions and has written 68 law reviews. This month, he will begin writing the next chapter of his life. Chief Justice, you leave behind an indelible legacy for the betterment of the legal profession and the practice of law throughout this country, not just here in Indiana. On behalf of the ABA, I extend to you and your lovely family our best wishes to you for rest, relaxation, and for what I know will be continued accomplishment. I can tell you, after traveling this country since early August of last year, privileged to be the president of the American Bar Association, that there is not a judge or a justice in this great country who has vindicated or validated more credibly our theme for Law Day this year: no justice, no courts, no justice, no freedom. You have our lasting gratitude, Chief Justice. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for your remarks. If we had more time today, each of Chief Justice's 50 law clerks would be able to fill hours sharing their admiration for the Chief. But because that's not possible, they've asked one of their own, Julie McDonald, to convey their great affection for the Chief. After Julie completed her clerkship, she was in private practice, and she's presently an education attorney in our own Indiana Judicial Center. Welcome, Julie.
May it please the court. I represent 50 lawyers who were honored to serve as judicial clerks to Chief Justice Shepard, or the judge, as we affectionately call him. A clerkship is the last vestige of a legal apprenticeship, where a newly minted lawyer learns directly from an expert. The quality of this education depends on the caliber of the teacher, and we had the very best. In addition to researching and wordsmithing, our clerkships involved reason and policy and doing what's right. What started as respectful deference for our teacher's great wisdom ended in genuine love for the teacher himself. So yes, clerking was an honor, but honor doesn't begin to cover it. First, the clerks thanked the judge's family. Once when I delivered briefs to his home, 3-year-old Maddie met me at the door and said, "You're in Daddy's book club." Exactly. She was a spunky girl who has grown into a lovely young lady. And Amy is the grounding influence in the judge's life. At yet another ceremony when he received an award, I heard her say to him, "Just remember this, I'm still taller than you." Well, Amy and Maddie are the heart of the judge's biological family. No remarks would be complete without a word about the head of his professional family, his loyal assistant, Debbie Balmer. Debbie managed the work of the office and the personalities of 50 opinionated law clerks with the same grace that she greeted heads of state. Debbie, we are blessed to call you friend. When we clerks graduated from law school, each of us was quite all right academically. For example, when the judge saw one impeccably perfect resume and application for a clerkship, he said, "I hate her already." He hired her and loved her, of course. But clerking was our first job out of law school, and our raw academic skills needed maturing. The judge's integrity, kindness, and character set the bar for us in our careers and in our personal lives. He did not merely show us what to do, he showed us who to be. The judge listened to our green ideas, treating us as if we worked with him instead of for him. Once I heard him say of the clerks, "These are the people who make me look smarter than I really am." Impossible. During my clerkship, a homeless man visited the judge's chambers every day. Mr. Morrison was famous for his long hair, long fingernails, and long letters. He was such a part of our daily lives that when we went on vacation, we sent postcards back to the judge, Debbie, and Mr. Morrison. What this man needed more than a home was respect. The judge greeted him with kindness and treated him with dignity. The judge's stellar legal mind inspired some of his clerks to practice at the highest levels of the profession around Indiana and across the country. His creativity motivated some clerks to start law practices of their own, while his passion for public service moved still others to careers in government and public interest. But no matter where we've landed, our apprenticeships with the judge improved us beyond measure. Chief Justice Shepard has done the same for Indiana. He has taken a state that was already something good and transformed it into a state that is truly quite something. From articles and opinions enhancing the profession, to programs advancing minorities in the law, to projects improving individual Hoosiers' lives, the judge has left a legacy of goodness. As Thoreau said, "Goodness is the only investment that never fails." The judge invested in each of his clerks, in the work of the court, and in Indiana itself. I now invite my colleagues who clerked for the Honorable Randall T. Shepard to rise and remain standing. Of all these, the clerks who had the privilege of serving you, I say directly to you, Judge, we wish you warm memories of your yesterdays, of clerks well taught and a job well done. We pledge to honor you by living your legacy. Standing together, we wish you all the goodness you have given, our esteemed, our beloved Chief.
Julie, how very special. Thank you. Before I begin with my own remarks, please join me in welcoming three former Supreme Court justices who are also with us today. Judge Roger DeBruler. Judge Myra Selby. Judge Todd and his wife, Peggy. On behalf of the Chief Justice's colleagues, Justice Frank Sullivan, Robert Rucker, and Steve David, and myself, I'm extremely privileged to express our collective immense appreciation to a man who's been our judicial brother and a bigger-than-life servant leader for Indiana's judiciary. And thank you, Amy and Maddie, for all that you've done in giving him the support and the love that's enabled him to serve and lead our judiciary. Just look at this magnificent courtroom, if you will. Restoring it to its original splendor was a product of Randy Shepard's love for history, preservation, tradition. But note that it's equipped with video cameras for webcasting, and this program today is being webcast. Also a Shepard-inspired project to foster openness, public access, education. This contrast exemplifies so much of Randy Shepard's work on the court, passionately preserving history, including the good embodied in past achievements and sound legal precedents, and yet also energetically embracing the promise and the opportunities of innovation and beneficial change. The Chief Justice has helped transform the mission of Indiana's judiciary from serving almost as a decider of cases only to becoming a proactive, hands-on change agent in building a better system of justice, more open, more accessible, more sensitive, more helpful, and more restorative to our citizens. And he's accomplished this with creative vision and passion for judicial excellence, and keen insight and appreciation for the limits and the opportunities of the judiciary as one of the three co-equal branches of government. But I want to reflect a bit on Randy Shepard, our colleague, our judicial brother. He has presided over our weekly conferences with consummate respect for the views of each of us. He's never cut off discussion, never belittled another justice's opinion, and yet he often managed to steer our thinking to consider his own perspectives about things like the legislative process, the potential impact on commerce, the adequacy of legal representation for indigent criminal defendants, and the need to assure equal access to justice for all. He has influenced and shaped our views, not by demand, not by directive, but by courtesy, respect, openness, willingness to seek first to understand. Randy's profound intellect is matched by his strength of conviction and his heart for Hoosiers and Indiana institutions. No surprise, considering that he himself is a seventh-generation Hoosier. We've often turned to Randy Shepard and asked him to write some of our most important decisions. And as CEO of the Supreme Court family of about 200 employees, Randy Shepard has applied an uncanny management style that quietly motivates by a combination of respect, inspiration, encouragement, empowerment, and recognition. You've heard that from all of our speakers today. The result has been enormous innovation, productivity, and staff satisfaction and stability. We've also greatly benefited from having him as the voice of the court. His eloquence earns kudos each annual State of the Judiciary address. No matter how large or how small his audience, his speeches are done with a unique flair of intimacy, humility, and gentle thoughtfulness. While originally a political being, as you've heard, since taking the oath of judicial office, Randy Shepard has meticulously excluded partisanship from his judicial decisions. And even from his informal comments with us during our conference discussions, he has fittingly become apolitical and this likely has been a major factor in the respect and the cooperation he has earned from Indiana governors and legislators from both parties. Randy, for Frank and Bob and Steve and me, you have been a wonderful colleague. And as a memento, we'd like to present you with this gift. If I can safely get it out. It is crafted from wood that came from Indiana's Constitution elm. The tree where, as you know, Indiana's first Constitution was written in Corydon in 1816. From us.
No knife necessary, right?
No knife?
No knife.
That's right.
He stands
Governor's
there ready. The vessel itself is just incredible. Oh my. What a special.
Chief, we are immensely saddened and we're yet challenged by your departure. But we treasure the privilege of having worked with you. And we wish to look to you and your example to guide us as we go forward. Randy, we wish you Godspeed in all of your endeavors. Thank you, my dear friend. His rebuttal time has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, Indiana's great and America's great Chief Justice Randall T. Shepard.
Justice Dickson's been kind enough to introduce Amy and Maddie. I'd like you to meet the other members of my family who are here. My sister Judy and her husband Jim Horn, both recovering lawyers. And their daughter, my niece Shannon, who is a sophomore at Northwestern University. Now, all three of you need to stand up so everybody can see who you are. My mother and father-in-law, Amy's parents, Sandy, a retired banker, Marty McDonald, a lifelong advocate for the arts, are here from Lima, Ohio. Why don't you stand up? And Amy's brother Parker, who has a career in business finance, his wife Betsy, a geologist by trade, and their children, Lindsay and Alec, all here of Columbus, Ohio. Thanks. Thank you so much, Alec, I know that today is the opening season for the ball team, and I appreciate your deciding to come here. Sorry for the conflict. Well, my word, what a Niagara of generous sentiment from people I care so much about, all of you who've just spoken. I'm grateful to each of you. How could one ask for a better friend than Mitch Daniels? We've known each other our whole adult life. He's managed to capture his idea of leadership in just 2 words: aim higher. It was a message he intended for 6.5 million of us. But as far as I was concerned, he was speaking directly to me. To have served in this place and time with you and with my third-floor neighbor, Becky Skillman, has been more than I could rightfully have dreamed in our youth. Judge Robyn Moberly is all that a fine judge can be. And she, too, has inspired me with a line: striving to do my best more often. Robyn Moberly's best is very good indeed, and she has plenty of company among Indiana's splendid trial bench. And thanks, too, to the team of Chickedantz and Glass and Robinson. Sounds like a good name for a law firm. No finer trio ever demonstrated the excellence of the American legal profession. Thank you all for what you said. And Julie McDonald. To Julie McDonald and the astoundingly good younger lawyers she represents, thanks for the elegant work we've done together. It's been grand to grow older with you. And I know that all of them would applaud the non-lawyers who contributed to Chambers: Elizabeth Osborne and Catherine Dolan and Sarah Kidwell, and absolutely most of all, Debbie Balmer. I know that everybody thinks that, Debbie Balmer, because on the day I told my colleagues I was leaving, Justice Sullivan said, "Shepard, you we can replace. Debbie Balmer has to stay." Sitting there next to Dave Remendini, whom she couldn't get to stand, but who was part of that too. And it's a happy fact that the court has offered Debbie the chance to stay and that she has agreed. And what great law partners I've had. Whether it's calling us to be faithful stewards of the Fourth Amendment, or lifting up great ideas for families and children, or helping us do more justice by stretching with the new tools of modern age, or setting such a high bar on civility and professionalism. I appreciate enormously the professional life made possible by being part of this winning team of extraordinary colleagues. I've been thinking about the meaning of this transition for many months, and it may only have been when I read the guest list for the 3rd or 4th time, the list of people who would be here today, that I began to understand what this passage might teach me about life. That word, passage, or actually passages, was the title of a book by Gail Sheehy that was a national bestseller the year I turned 30. Because of when I read it, I remember most vividly her observation that when we are 28 or 30, one of our great fears is that other people will discover that we're really not as competent as we've managed to make ourselves look. And when we spend our late 30s and early 40s wondering whether this is all there really is. Reflecting on those passages and reading today's guest list have brought me to a different and simple lesson. There is satisfaction and pride and pleasure in the places we work, in the spots we visit, the projects we undertake. But the better way to think about it is to appreciate the people who have befriended us and with whom we've laughed and cried and made common cause, suffered and celebrated, and shared quiet moments when absolutely nothing was happening except friendship. To have so many people who've been such good friends and comrades all in one room at the same time fills me with appreciation for a life so fortunately lived. Let me try to speak about today as an accounting for where justice in our state has been and is. The story today's speakers have told is one about which all of us can feel a sense of pride in accomplishment. So whether it's first-rate appellate work or initiatives focused on children or evidence-based sentencing or civil legal aid or jury reform or mortgage foreclosure prevention or countless other things, it is plain to see that this is a profession, a judiciary, with reform in its heart, one that may be rarely first and occasionally last, but is frequently early, whose players have their eyes on the horizon and their feet planted firmly on Indiana ground. And yes, one that leads reformers in other states, confronting the toughest legal challenges of the day, sometimes to turn to each other and ask, what do you suppose Indiana has done about this? I can acknowledge my own role in all this and still say without false modesty that most of what has been described today reflects joint effort and collective commitment, both by judges and lawyers and scholars inside the profession, and by our allies in the other branches of government and outside government. That fact permits me to leave the stage with full confidence that this endeavor, this great machine, will move ahead inexorably to things we haven't yet thought about. As for my own future, this business of getting out of office has made for a pretty busy time, and I'm still working out just where I'll be. But so far, I've signed on for 4 new things. First, in a few days, I'll be serving with Chief Judge Robyn and her colleagues as a senior judge in the Indiana Court of Appeals, where I will doubtless finally find out what they actually think about my opinions. And I've agreed to become a director of Justice at Stake, a national organization that advocates for fair and impartial courts and for keeping campaign cash out of courtrooms. Fourth, next month I'll be a visiting scholar at the University of Cincinnati College of Law, and I've had some very promising discussions with others of our friends in the Academy, with whom I hope to collaborate. And finally, I'll be guest editor at IU's History Journal, the Indiana Magazine of History. The Lieutenant Governor will be happy to know. There will be a special edition on legal history relating to Indiana's upcoming bicentennial. When I reflect on the legal profession, I often think about what Alan Greenspan said when asked towards the end of his term at the Federal Reserve what he thought was the most important factor in the success of the American experiment in self-government. There have been a lot of respectable answers to that question. When I was in middle school, the most popular one was abundant resources, lots of good farmland and water and minerals, gas and oil. People thought that was the reason. Other people might have plausibly said, no, it was the decision in our state and others to offer early on free, universal public education. A very good answer, but not the one Greenspan gave. Or Greenspan, being an economist, he could have given the third answer, the fact of a common market, early on, from sea to shining sea, where people and goods could move about and an economy could thrive. That would have been a good economist's answer, but that wasn't it either. Greenspan said it was America's commitment to the rule of law. That our country has so long embraced this system, these rules of law for living with our fellow citizens, that there are reliable ways to protect the powerless and to seek redress for injury and to hold accountable those who do violence and to enforce commercial transactions. That, said Greenspan, made the greatest difference. And doing justice under law as best human beings can do for each other is the core of what judges and lawyers are all about. And a career in the arena in pursuit of that cause has been a worthy way to spend and be spent, as so many in this room have done. We do this for society, for each other, and for the people we care the most about. And that thought reminds me of an earlier day in a large room. It was about this time of year, 29 years ago, in a large courthouse where I knew almost everyone, but my eyes landed on someone whom I didn't know. It turned out to be Amy McDonald. It was as close as one gets in real life to love at first sight. And that we still care about so many of the same things after all this time is truly wonderful, including the hardest job of all in life, being a good parent to a daughter, Maddie, who seems well on her way to becoming a capable and moral adult. Thanks to all of you for all you've done to help me in so many ways. Thank you for being here today. Godspeed to you all.
That concludes our formal program. We invite you all to attend the reception in the atrium. Please feel free to exit the courtroom either from the main or the rear door which leads to the library. Again, thank you all for participating in this special historic occasion.
All rise. This court is adjourned.